Have you ever explained something so clearly, at least in your mind, only to be met with confusion, silence, or even rejection? Today, we explore why communication often fails and how we can shift from simply telling to truly getting through to others. This talk is inspired by the book Banana no Miroku o 100文字で伝えてください by Takafumi Kakiuchi. The central idea is powerful. It's not about how well you speak, but about how well the other person receives. Communication should be designed around the listener, not the speaker. If they don't understand, the job isn't done, even if you said everything perfectly. We tend to blame ourselves for poor explanations, or worse, blame others for not listening. But this book begins from a different assumption, that understanding is inherently hard. People see the world through entirely different lenses. Accepting that being understood is difficult is not pessimistic, it's strategic. Once we start from that mindset, we can build techniques to bridge the gap. That's where the real magic begins. The author proposes a 7-story building as a metaphor for getting through. The first floor is setting the goal. Before saying anything, clarify, what am I trying to achieve by speaking right now? If your goal is to persuade, teach, comfort, or inspire, each one requires a different tone, structure, and focus. Most communication fails at this very first step. People speak without knowing what they want the other person to feel or do. The second floor is generating agreement. It's not just about being heard. You must bring the other person to a state of understanding and internal alignment. They need to feel, yes, that makes sense to me. You know you're halfway there when someone says, I see what you mean. That's the turning point from passive hearing to active understanding. And it requires both clarity and empathy. The third floor is all about shifting the focus. Base your message on their world, not yours. We often communicate with ourselves in mind. But the only way to truly connect is to reframe it through their lens. If your explanation makes sense to you, great. Now ask, does it make sense to a 10-year-old? To someone outside your industry? To someone with different life experiences? Tailor your message, don't just broadcast it. Next comes the fourth floor, visualization. The most effective communicators make ideas visible. They use metaphors, stories, imagery, and even tone and pauses to help you see what they mean, not just hear it. Imagine telling someone bananas are good. Now compare that to, this banana has a sharp tang like a green apple with mellow sweetness that blooms after a second. One is a fact, the other is a sensory experience. The fifth floor is the power of listening. Before you transmit, you must tune in. The best communicators are curious listeners. They ask, observe, and adapt in real time based on what they hear and feel. Listening doesn't just provide context, it also builds rapport. A person who feels heard is more likely to listen in return. It transforms the conversation from a monologue to a shared experience. The sixth floor is familiarity and warmth. People accept ideas more readily from those they like or feel connected to. Creating emotional closeness through openness, shared values, and even humor makes a huge difference. Have you noticed how friends can say hard truths that strangers can't? That's because we're more receptive to those we trust. Start by building that emotional bridge before you walk your message across. The final floor, seventh, is trust. Without it, nothing else sticks. Trust is built not by saying the right things once, but by showing up consistently, telling the truth, and putting the listener's interest first. Trust is fragile, but incredibly powerful. Once you earn it, even complex or difficult ideas can be accepted. But if it's lost, even the simplest truths will bounce off like rubber. A beautiful real-world example from the book. A greengrocer tells customers not just what's good, but what not to buy that day. Why? Because honesty builds credibility. That honesty turns casual buyers into loyal fans. This taps into what the book calls the law of comparison. By showing what's bad or subpar, you highlight what's good. In a world full of hype, contrast becomes clarity. Another smart trick: Fact versus emotion. Don't confuse objective truths with your feelings. Saying, "I was hurt," is not the same as saying, "You were unfair." Separate your emotions from the event to communicate better. Even phrases like "thanks for your time" or "sorry for the delay" carry emotional meaning. These aren't just pleasantries. They convey respect, care, and social connection. Skipping them can make messages feel cold or robotic. The title of the book itself is a lesson in effective messaging. Convey the charm of a banana in 100 characters. Why does it work? Because it's concrete, familiar, measurable, and personally engaging. Think about it. Bananas are common. 100 characters is a creative constraint, and asking you to do it activates your brain. It's clever communication design, and we can learn from it. So how can we become more effective communicators? Not by speaking louder, not by explaining more, but by stepping into the listener's world, understanding their frame, and building a message they want to receive. Communication is not just a skill, it's a practice. With reflection, empathy, and the right mindset, we can all get better, not just at talking, but at truly being understood.